Hello. Welcome once again. And did you know that the best cure for a black eye is fast hands? I'm your host, Justin, and we are talking all about Daredevil in this week's Still Scrolling Special Viewers Unit, a special after show where we dive deep into a specific show. And this week we're talking about Daredevil Born Again. But for this 2-episode stretch, we're talking about 3 and 4, I had to get some help. I needed someone with better peripheral vision than White Tiger, so I enlisted the one, the only Derek to join me. Derek, welcome back to the show that you're already a part of.
Happy to be here. Happy to be tapped for the opportunity.
Yes, I'm excited.
I already have every week.
Yes. If you don't know, we'll be talking about Daredevil every now and then. I don't think we can promise every week, but we will cover the season in its entirety eventually. So keep it locked on this feed. If you have any questions or comments about what we're talking about or what we should cover next, send us a message or a comment on one of our many social profiles that's on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Blue Sky, all that stuff. And
MySpace.
You can we have MySpace now?
We have a MySpace and a live journal.
Yes, and leave us a review there. But without further ado, we are talking about episodes 3 and 4 of Daredevil. Spoilers ahead. You have been warned. Derek, what are you listening to?
It was, I'm downloading something. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Now I'm a little worried. It could be something bad. We'll see. Anyways.
No, it's not. It's not for the show. Don't worry about it.
All right, let's talk about this week's episode. That is, or last week's episode, episode 3, and that is called, what is it called? If I can find it, oh my God. Mask Off, which covers the trial of the White Tiger. Before we get started, Derek, what did you think of Daredevil Born Again so far? We didn't have you last week, but now we're here.
It's a solid show. I think they've done a really good job at Disney Plusifying it. Right?
What do you
I think,
mean?
in the sense that like they didn't Disney Plusify it, right?
Interesting. Okay.
It visually, if you're looking for it, you're gonna find the differences in the aesthetic, in the visual effects, and just the color grading and green screens and all that stuff. Like if you're looking for that kind of stuff, so you could be mad about it, you're going to find it. But the normal person is going to see it and they're going to be like, this looks great, and I'm enjoying the show. But I think the Netflix shows, Daredevil included, what set them apart was like this grittiness, real world, kind of like rated R approach that they took to the shows. And I think that was the concern going into Daredevil Born Again, is that they weren't going to have that. And I still think that they very much do. I think they're just telling a very specific story that requires less of that violence right now, right up front. So it does feel like a different show. It doesn't feel like the same Netflix shows to me. But the season's not over yet, and they're telling that rebirth, aka like reboot of the character. So we're still very much in that like pre-violence.
I don't know. Like episode 1 was pretty
after episode
violent.
Yeah.
Like like damn, they really went there. But like for some things, I was like, okay.
Right.
I think for this week's episode and episode 3, I think we really get a taste of what the show was supposed to be, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. If you don't know, like the backstage drama. But for this show, they were making an entirely different show. And then Kevin Feige, when he got the footage back, when everything kind of went on pause for the actors and writers strike, he was like, this ain't it, fam. And they went back to the drawing board. But reports of the original iteration of the show focus on how it's a week-to-week procedural. And these 3 and 4 is like really a week-to-week procedural. Like they really like have an A plot, they have a B plot. I don't know, it feels like real television in a way that other Disney Plus shows don't. Does that make any sense? It's like this is this week's episode as a beginning, middle, and end, right? There's an overarching part, but there's like little mini arcs for each individual characters. We get to learn more about them and then pitch to the next week, like normal ass television. And I think that's what we want. That's all we wanted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as far as Disney Plus shows, like you can always tell when it's a movie that's cut up.
Yeah.
I think like shows like The Falcon and the Winter Soldier was just a movie cut up, but this is real deal television. And so let's get started by talking about episode 3. I have some notes about episode 3. Is Matt a bad lawyer?
I knew that's where you were gonna go.
I like Matt Murdock. I really like him. He might be a bad lawyer, like legitimately a bad lawyer.
It felt very weird watching it without having watched episode 4. If that makes sense.
What do you mean?
Because episode 4, this week's episode, it's episode 4, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Episode 4 focuses on like the system's broken, right? And the name of the episode is Sic Semper Systema, which is essentially saying like it's supposed to be like a play on Sic Semper Tyrannis. So like eventually tyrants will be overthrown type of a vibe. So Sic Semper Systema is supposed to be like eventually the system will be overthrown and you're going to have to kind of go in that extracurricular route around the system, circumvent the system to get what you need, right? What you want. And they really showed that with Matt and everything he was going through with Leroy, but also just his confrontation with Frank and how everything has kind of panned out for him over the last few years in his life. But going back to episode 3, when you just see Matt not being a good lawyer, right? Kind of outing his client as a vigilante without his permission because it's essentially his last resort after he basically argued for that same vigilante aspect of the character to be excluded from the record for the trial. Right. It's just kind of like, what's going on? You know what I mean? And I think it as a standalone episode, it was like, yeah, that's weird. This is a very weird thing. And then in episode 4, you realize, oh, he is a good lawyer. He's just literally still has too much faith in the system, and he's slowly starting to realize it's broken. And it's kind of his pushback into Daredevilism. But we don't know that in just episode 3.
Like, okay, look, I am not a lawyer. So if you're listening to this show or watching Daredevil with us, please let me know if I'm bugging, but I have seen a lot of suits. Right? Mm-hmm. What didn't make sense to me about the trial is that, number one, they live in New York City, right? So when the guy on the stand says, like, chickens out and says, oh, I was at home, it wasn't me, I wasn't there, right? You're telling me there's no cameras down in the subway systems that can prove that he was there? You're telling me that, like, there's no, like, receipts on his, like, not bus card, but, like, subway card, or, like, the tap to pay? Look at his phone records, or look at his, like, account to see if he actually paid for, like, a ticket or something. Did the officers pay for a ticket? Did Hector pay for a ticket? Did anyone check the security cameras or anything just to be like, no, you're on the stand, I have the truth right here. But instead, he unmasked Hector? I feel as though that's like, I don't know, that's like burning the house down. Like, why? I'm struggling to understand it, especially when there's been scenes of Daredevil where his secret identity is so, like, crucial to his character in a way that, like, characters like Captain America and Tony Stark aren't, like, attached to their secret identities. But for people like Daredevil, their secret identity means a lot, especially when keeping a job like a lawyer. So I was having, like, such a hard time, I guess, reconciling this version of Matt Murdock with ones that we've seen before. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It definitely requires a little bit of like suspension of disbelief. I'm not even sure that that's really what it is, but it really just requires you to kind of just be like, the plot needs to move forward and this is how they're doing it, you know? Because you're right. It's very much like, but we have you on record saying you were there. We have your credit card, your Metro card information. Also, he was supposed to be called to the stand, which means like the defense knows that, right? And they even made it a point to like get him there with protective custody because in case he was getting chased down or anything like that. So it's like you don't just bring up a witness with no like prior like build up work for that witness to be up there.
Right.
So you're absolutely right. It's like it's kind of like I think they just tried to figure out how to best show the gravity of why Matt needed to out Hector's identity, but decided not to. And then I also feel like I also feel like the realistically speaking, and this is why I mentioned like the suspension of disbelief you just kind of got to commit to it. It would have already been known that he was White Tiger. Like that would have leaked immediately.
Really?
Like, I don't think that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I don't think that would have been the minute that like the what is it? The minute that
the footage
Matt discovered it, because Matt discovered it, right? Like the police didn't discover it.
That's a white suit. He has to take it in for dry clean. There's no way he's keeping that clean.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. But yeah, I feel like it just would have leaked already. So by the time he's like, "Hey, Your Honor, we need to like strike this from the evidence or whatever," like I think right there would have just been like mistrial, right? Like this is already a mistrial because of how like muddy and weird it all is, and Hector kind of just is temporarily free while they figure out like what to do, and then that's how he dies, maybe, right? Like they could have done it in other ways where it wasn't as much of like a Matt betraying what he himself depends on as a vigilante. So, yeah,
like,
it was kind of weird.
Like, come on, especially because I just watched No Way Home, and how it's important for Peter Parker to have a secret identity, and yet you're telling me the same Matt Murdock think it's okay to unmask? Like,
I'm a really good lawyer.
Yeah, but like, what is did the magic spell forget that he did that case? But Kingpin still mentions that there's a Spider-Man out there. Like, I'm just like, there were so many ways not to do that.
Yeah,
and I think it kind of led to his death at the end of the day. But we'll get there when we get there. Another part of these two episodes in the whole series. How do you feel about the BB report? Because
it's
it's a good idea in theory.
Yes, it's a great idea in theory, and I think that I love that it's Ben's niece doing it.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm having a hard time with it.
What's weird for me is that she's friends with the Kingpin's like aide.
Oh, Daniel.
That's so weird to me, and I hate
Daniel.
him. No,
I
really
him so
love.
Much. Okay, here's the thing. I'm not saying like I want to hang out with Daniel. He's clearly like a jerk, but I love his character. You know what I mean?
Right. They've done a good job with the character.
Yeah, great performance. What's his name? Michael Gandolfini. I think he played Tony Soprano, the young one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in Saints of Newark. And I was like, you know what? I want to hang out. I want to see this guy in everything now. I want him to be the connecting thread. I want him he's so funny. But I guess I'm struggling with the BB report because I said this in the last like Daredevil after show. When Fisk killed Ben Urich, part of me mourned that connection with the Daily Bugle because I'm like, damn, that's you're removing interconnectivity and when it comes to characters like Foggy and Karen, removing them from this show. I get killing Foggy. What I don't understand is replacing them with two characters that kind of serve the same function anyway and aren't offering anything to differentiate that. And when it comes to the BB report, they want the reporter angle, but for some reason it feels as though they're removing the character of BB. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's like it feels weirdly interpersonal, but it's a good idea in theory because I talk about this all the time when I'm talking about the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. And what made those movies special is that New York felt like a character, an organic character. Like when Spider-Man's like flying through, they're like, hey, that guy stole my pizza. You know what I mean? Like New York is reactive. But in this, it's like, it doesn't feel organic in the same way. You know what I mean? And I've criticized other MCU projects for not like making their world seem almost empty because we hardly ever see them seeing or saving individual people. It's always like, save the destruction of the city. And like, in theory, I would like something like the BB report, but like, I don't really know BB that well in this show. We don't really know her well that much for me to like matter. You know what I mean? And it just feels like really like, it like cuts the momentum of the show when it's someone's like, hey, yo, I know Daredevil. He was that guy with the horns, right?
Yeah. It feels when you first see her, like I didn't realize it at first, and I'm like, oh, what's this BB report? I guess they're doing kind of like an artsy intersplice, and then you realize it's Ben's niece, and you're like, oh shit. And I thought it would be a little bit more clear what she's trying to do, or that she's maybe on to Kingpin a little bit, because like I felt like maybe she had connected the dots to Ben's death, and that's what she was trying to slowly kind of build up towards, especially because she's got this very heavy vigilante angle in those street interviews. But really it just feels like it's a plot. She's a convenient plot device. Oh, hey, we need to push Kingpin over the edge. Okay, great. Get Michael Gandolfini Jr. in there and have him spill the beans to BB in the club that they would totally be hanging out with, right? Like this isn't
They're not hanging out. BB's not hanging out with Daniel.
No, at all, right? Like he's a radicalized former Democrat, right? That is like
You
now
think
super.
he's a Democrat?
I think
No.
he was. No, I think he was, and he was just like, you know what? I can't get laid, and I like Kingpin. And I like what he stands for in masculinity, and he's getting things done. And he like contorted himself, kind of like what happens in real life, right? Like these people, they grow up maybe a little bit borderline empathetic, and they think they have an idea, but then really they just need some therapy, not putting their faith in some political figure to revolutionize their life. And he's basically like, a bootlicker at this point. That guy, in no way, maybe in the past, but in the way that we see him in the show, he's not hanging out with BB anymore. You know what I mean? Like, BB used him as an in to get the interview, and that's it. That's where it ends. Like, they're not friends anymore. They're definitely not drinking together and that kind of deal. And I think that I think that the writers are aware of that because they were like, oh, yeah, he's going to help with recycling and garbage. Like they had to throw something in there to kind of justify why they're even hanging out together at this point, right? Not just that they were like these a random acquaintance or connection, but to your point, like earlier, right? It doesn't feel organic because there needs to be more to BB. There needs to be more as to like why she's around, why she's doing it. Like we get it, she's following in Ben's footsteps, but why is she around? If that makes sense.
Right. So
other than to just like conveniently place little splice footage and, smear stories on Kingpin.
Exactly. So speaking of Kingpin, let's talk about the B plot of, I guess, episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I might say something controversial. I don't hate Kingpin as mayor. I love that narratively. I think that's a really fun idea.
Yeah.
And I think they're doing it really well. I'm very interested in that. Would I vote for Kingpin? I still need to know his tax policy.
Yeah. That's a different story, but they've made it realistic enough and like
really I would believe this guy got elected. I now
Yeah,
believe why he got elected. And like, he's not, I don't know if he's charismatic, you know what I mean? But like, I believe that he wants to be good. The
right.
show has now bought that in for me. You know, like at first I
Mhm.
was like, is he evil? Is he like not? I think Wilson Fisk thinks he's doing good.
Right.
He truly believes that he thinks that he's being a good person. But one of the things that tipped me off was that like there's that scene in episode 3 where him and Vanessa are eating, right? And I think it's a funny detail that like it's Kingpin like watching his cholesterol and he's like eating this healthy stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and like across the table is just Vanessa just being like, I miss when you were the big guy. I mean, like she
Hmm.
misses the real Kingpin,
Hmm.
which leads to my theory. I think I talked about this last week, but I now have. I think I'm like locking it in. I think Vanessa ordered the hit on Foggy.
Oh, absolutely. I think she is
Absolutely. I
behind it, and maybe not like from some sort of like bring my kingpin back to me type of motivation, but maybe more so just from like a business standpoint. Like, yeah, kill this guy. We need him dead. He's doing too much good work. A quick detail about like what Kingpin was eating, and it's all like healthy and cholesterol. At the end of episode 4, when
yeah.
he's not eating healthy anymore, right? It's almost like even the food is reflecting
Let him have a
the fact
cheat
that he's
meal.
regressing back. No, sure. But eventually, that's going to be the daily meal is going to be some, you know,
Like
not so great
steak,
stuff.
red
Yeah,
meat and
yeah,
stuff. Like
yeah,
let him have a cheat meal, man.
yeah,
I think it's obvious that Vanessa is still is the kingpin at this point, especially when
yeah,
the assistant they were like I think they're trying to work out a deal with like the Russian like the tracksuit mafia and they're paying like their repentance and stuff like that. And then the guy like where's the kingpin? Like I wanted to talk to the man. Like oh
yeah.
the man is in charge, right? And
Hmm.
it's believable, and I'm glad that we're finally getting to know Vanessa as a character.
Yeah.
You know
Instead
what I
of
mean? And
just
now
Vanessa.
she's down for the kingpin. She loves the crime, and I think like they were talking about like they were talking about paintings, and she's like we could have laundered so much money with that. And I'm like, damn, she knows the code. She
Yeah,
knows how it works too. I
yeah.
do you ship Kingpin and Vanessa?
Like
Really?
not so much because I don't think they work together. I think they're a good couple. They're made for each other, I think.
Oh.
But I just, it's almost kind of like there's too much going on with him.
Hmm.
Just kind of like same with Matt, right? Like there's a lot going on with him there, but it's a lot more like kind of action focused. Like this court case, this failure of the justice system, Foggy obviously dying, Hector dying. Like there's a lot going on with Matt that gets me a little bit more like invested because it's what I'm here to watch. And then it's like, okay, Wilson and Vanessa are in couples therapy. Great.
I
So it's kind of
love
like
it. I love the
speed it up here
juxtaposition.
though.
What do
Yeah,
you want
yeah.
to happen?
I want them to just I guess what I want is the season to be over so that I can know the story as a whole. Like it's not so much that I want it to speed up. I just want to see where they go with it because my theory is not that Vanessa killed Foggy, but that Foggy faked his own death. Because
Keep
that's a whole
saying
other
that.
story. Yeah, that's a whole other theory
Like
going around right now.
I
Which
I want to
maybe.
believe that, but I'm struggling in this current like as for like we've only seen episodes 1 through 4. Why he would want to hide that truth from Matt, and why what is there to gain? Like what would
That's why I
he
want the
gain?
season. That's why I want the whole story, so I can know that.
I don't think I can't. Maybe it's just me. I can't think of a good reason why he would want to do that. Like why he would want to hide. Who is he hiding? Is he hiding from Vanessa? Did he take money from Vanessa? Like what's going on? Like,
I
and
think
why
there
would he of all people take money from Vanessa?
Well, I don't think he took money from her. I think Bullseye is worked for Vanessa, and they kind of are in cahoots on everything together, and it's a win-win situation where uh, basically Vanessa gains ground as Kingpin, right? She rises to power, whatever. Um, Foggy gets Matt to stop being Daredevil, which is something that he's had wanted, right? Like he was never kind of on board with all of that. And then worst case scenario, Daredevil ends up coming back out of like straight vengeance and retribution, and Wilson ends up coming back. Fisk ends up coming back in full blown Kingpin as well. So it's kind of like almost like it's a plan, but then it also has a really good failsafe for Vanessa where she can either be Kingpin or get Kingpin back, and then Foggy kind of gets what he wants too. But I think there's probably some alternative in his aspect of the story where that's why the theory wouldn't work for me, where it's like, but what else would be his motivation to just like disappear for a year, right, or longer or whatever, and fake his death, obviously. So it's an incomplete puzzle, it's an incomplete theory. So all the more reason why, like, I get it, they're in couples therapy. I want to know what's going on here. Like, it just makes me a little bit more impatient with everything else being told in the show right now.
True. Speaking of couples therapy, we learn about a new character named Adam, who is literally. Can we curse on this show? Can we curse on this show?
What? Yeah.
He turned the one person on Earth who could turn the Kingpin into a cuck. I'm sorry. That's literally what happened. Like, what the heck? Like, oh, really? Really, Wilson? Really? All right, okay. I mean, he did leave. You know, I talked about this in the last like special viewers unit. I think it would have made sense if they just said that Fisk got blipped. You were gone.
Yeah.
I moved on. I didn't know you were coming back. But not only did he not get blipped, he went, did whatever he did in Echo, got shot in the face, came back and didn't talk to his wife? Why?
Yeah, and it all happens off screen, so it's hard to tell exactly what we have seen, right? What of it, how much of it happened during Hawkeye? How much of it happened in Echo? What else did he do other than like disappear for however long? And like, it's just, there's so much that is unknown. But then, yeah, towards the end of episode 4, we realize like that darkness is still kind of there because he's keeping the guy. Because I don't feel like it was infidelity. I feel like it was like this dude left her basically for whatever freaking reason. So she just found another lover. You know, like it's not full blown like, hey, we're together every day and I'm cheating on you.
Right.
But he still went and like now has that guy prisoner in a dungeon.
Wild, but like I mean, it's the nicest thing that Kingpin has ever done.
That's true. It's still a neutered version of what he would have probably done, 5 years ago or whatever.
Watch out for car doors, my guess.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, I progress is progress, I guess, but
little by little. Yeah.
little by little, you know what? I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for these crazy kids. I hope it all works out. Daredevil's girlfriend is a therapist, which I think is also interesting wrinkle, but that's a whole nother thing.
I think, yeah, that's an interesting aspect. Why she would be their therapist? I guess that's just kind of like, I don't know if they're gonna do anything with that. It's
not a betrayal because she legally can't tell him.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's more so, and I don't think she knows that he has beef with him like that. I think
she doesn't know that he's Daredevil.
Yeah. But I think what she is a stand-in for Catholicism in the show, in this season.
Interesting. Explain
where they're just, you go to confessional, you go see your priest. He's not supposed to tell anybody, right? Vanessa and Fisk are off, and that's their church.
Okay.
And then his church, his version of it is just kind of like having a healthy relationship with her. And because she's a therapist, she knows how to navigate that conversation and allow him to vent and express himself and all that. But the other side of that is that Frank Castle is also kind of a stand-in for a priest. Now that we've seen episode 4, right? The way that he's kind of venting. So it's kind of just like spreading that apart. And I think we're going to end with him finally going back into church. Because I don't think we've seen him go into church yet.
No.
So I
bet the last time he went into a church was when Foggy died.
Right. Right. So I think there's a lot that's like unspoken with Matt that's just hidden in this season's approach versus the previous seasons. And then once he's born again, once he resumes the mantle, that's when we'll probably see him back in a church or on top of a church or something like that.
I get it. Yeah. But speaking of mantles, we do get Hector's niece. There may or may not be white tigers soon. That's a whole thing. Let's talk about the last parts of episode 3 before we move into episode 4. Specifically, the trial of Hector Ayala. I hate when the bad guy has a point, because he was like, listen, just because he was a good day 364 days of the year doesn't mean he can't have a bad day, right?
Yeah.
And especially in a post-Sokovia Accords world.
Right.
I'm surprised Hector got off. To be honest with you, I'm genuinely shocked that he got off. In the comics, Hector is found guilty and they shoot him on the steps.
And he dies anyway. Yeah.
He dies anyway. So, I mean, I feel a lot of people were saying that this is because the actor passed away, and they just shot. I think that's
I don't think
really
so. I think
that would be so cruel. The shoot him in the head, like Jesus.
I think he was always supposed to die.
He was always supposed to die. But specifically, I feel like I think it's straining the, I guess, interconnectivity, because we are in the same New York. Or maybe they worship heroes because the Battle of New York took place there, right?
Right.
And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it with all the love in my heart. Maybe Hector was a bad superhero. Like, I say this with love. I love the character of Hector. But number one, the footage that we see, it takes him a long time to beat those bad guys.
He's just
even with the amulet. Like, okay. Number 2, he's wearing a bright white suit. Hey, whatever floats your boat. Moon Knight exists in this world, so whatever. It's fine. But in the middle of the night, Hector. Number 3, he does not carry his amulet with him at all times in case he needs to suit up.
You got to keep that thing on you, bro.
Even Spider-Man has his web shooters, you know what I mean? Like, even Daredevil has the Billy Club ready to go just in case. You're telling me you didn't pack anything? Hector.
Yeah, just wear it under your regular clothes.
Exactly. No one would even notice. It's just a chain.
And you wouldn't have accidentally killed a man and found yourself on trial.
He didn't. He moved out of the way. And
he pushed him, didn't he?
No, he moved out of the way.
Oh, and he fell. That's right.
Like he went. The cop wound up a punch, and then Hector dodged it, and then he just
and he slipped. I'm thinking that's how effective the defense was. Is that that he pushed? Yeah. No, you're right. He wouldn't have struggled in that fight to the point where it got there. He would have just incapacitated them and saved the day, and all right, go home. You know? But why carry my mystical, what is it, Kung Lung amulet with me? Is it Kung Lung?
It doesn't matter now. But
That's true.
You don't keep that thing on you. And what frustrates me about the death specifically, I get it. It was a cheap shot.
Yeah.
Bro, peripheral vision. I'm like, around, you're not checking your corners. You're just walking down the street. You're not jumping off rooftops. And he's just a guy walking. Just a guy walking.
He's like oh shit, there's something over there. Yeah,
if I'm like 5 blocks away and I needed White Tiger's help, I'm screwed. I'm
you're
dead.
dead.
Like
You better hope Spider-Man is around.
like I love the character of Hector. I don't think he was an effective superhero. I don't think he was a good superhero at all. Like I get it, Matt. You want to like defend soups in this world. It's just really and maybe he needed a fight scene to like maybe like make him believe that I want like we need
Yeah,
White Tiger. And then he
yeah.
just he puts on the suit after he just got free. I'm like, at least take a break. At the very least, like
Lay low, my man.
lay low, change the suit a little bit, maybe be paper bag man. It worked for Spider-Man. It worked. I just
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I promise I'm not trying to rewrite the show. It just frustrates me. I was like, come on, dude. Like,
Yeah,
have some common sense. Have
yeah.
some.
That episode as a whole, like, it was executed very well from like a
Executed.
visual, like story point. Jeez, dude. From a story point perspective, it was done very well. But the in between, right, like the little details do require that suspension of disbelief to be like, look, the point is that he dies. The point is that the cops are have him killed afterwards, right? The Punisher fanboys have him killed, even though he ended up free. That's the main point here. As for the actual technical execution of it, yeah, you just gotta kind of pretend. Remember, it's fiction, you know.
All
But yeah, I
right.
definitely agree with you though that the only it's surveillance footage from a bodega is like the only fighting we see him do. Like, give me something a little bit more. Maybe give me a quick montage of him spending the night fighting crime, and then at the end of the night, he hears something, he goes off, and then he's tired. He worked the whole night, that kind of deal.
I
Maybe give
just
me a,
like.
a BB report at that point
Oh
saying
my
White Tiger's
gosh.
back. Oh, that's so great. And then, but no, they were
Show
just
people that
like,
love White Tiger. What if she's doing the BB report as she accidentally films White Tiger saving the day, and people are like, "Yeah,
yeah,
White Tiger's back." You know, like
yeah.
that would have been cool. Well, a good use of the BB report, but I don't want to rewrite this show. I don't want to do that. I feel like that's like
It
so.
wasn't bad. It wasn't bad.
It
It
wasn't
was
bad. I had a
just,
good time. It's just
yeah.
have you ever heard the refrigerator test?
Maybe?
It's like, okay, you ever see a movie and the movie ends and you're like, holy cow, that was great. Man, that was amazing. I love the part where they did this, that, and the other. And then like you get home, you put on your jammies, you reach for the refrigerator, you're getting out the ice cream, and then you think to yourself like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. And then the movie
Oh,
just
right.
falls apart. You're
Okay,
like,
yeah.
I think that episode did not pass the refrigerator test for
There,
me.
there's definitely some refrigerator moments. That's for sure.
You're
Yep.
like, wait a minute. Why did they do X, Y, Z? But anyways, I'm still liking the show so far. But let's talk about episode 4.
Same here. Same here. And just a quick shout out to my friend Liza_Bean. Okay, she's a
Ooh,
New York native. She was one of the police in the audience during the trial.
wait, what? Can we get her
Yeah,
on the show?
maybe.
Oh my
Liza, will you come on the
gosh.
show?
Does she listen? Liza, I'm a huge fan of your work. I mean,
Yeah.
like she did a great job. The part where she was like,
And she was like,
it moved me. It moved me.
and then I think there's the other part where she was like
Oh, hit him with
that.
the
Yeah.
hit him with
No,
in the,
but so she actually, I had messaged her like, "Yo, this is crazy," and she's like, "I thought it was cut because apparently she was told that they cut a bunch
Ah.
of stuff, and no, she's like center frame in some of these like wide shots that they have, so it's kind of cool. It was like that and like Miles, Officer Morales. That was like the two takeaways for me during those courtroom scenes. But anyway,
Officer Morales. Do you think that's a? I think
I don't think so.
okay.
Yeah.
Let me know if this is off base. I don't think it was a Miles Morales thing because number one, his dad is named Jefferson Davis, and number two, if you have seen any cop show within the last 30 years, there's going to be a Officer Morales,
Mm-hmm.
Officer Diaz.
Yeah.
It's a very
Mm-hmm.
common
And in New
for a
York,
Spanish
come
speaking
on.
character. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah. I don't think so. And people are basing it off of the Spider-Verse movies that they changed his name for the second one.
Did they?
Yeah, but they don't explain why. They don't. In the first one, he's Davis. He's still Jefferson Davis, and then by the second one, you see like the mural Officer Morales or Captain Morales or whatever.
Oh.
And so I guess it was just kind of like they've retconned it. And I think maybe in the comics they retconned it at some point. So people are basing it off of that, but it's kind of like, guys, all right, fine. If you think it's an Easter egg, that's fine. But why is this like polluting my timeline to the extent that it is?
I guarantee it's not. But I mean, whatever floats your boat, I guess. But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
episode 4 starts off with Matt, I guess, looking over Hector Ayala's body when his niece comes in, like, why didn't you protect him, et cetera, et cetera. Very common, like, I guess, legal or any cop show kind of does this. Like, the young character kind of comes in and blames, like, the cop or the detective, like, why didn't you do X, Y, Z? And he's like, trust me, we have to do this the right way. And I was like, okay, hopefully we see this niece Young Avengers? Maybe?
Yeah.
What are the chances we see her again?
Maybe within the Daredevil verse. I'm not sure she'd get called up to the big leagues
No.
just be just because of like there's already so much going on. Um, but maybe I think we'll see her again at some point. They definitely made it a point to be like, look at Hector's personal belongings, including the amulet that gave him powers. Who has this now? Oh, like they made it a point to show that. So
Right.
so we'll see. It's the gun on the wall, really.
It's just, all right, we'll see. I doubt we see this character again.
Yeah.
Ever. I don't, like, I think it's going to be some kind of, I think it'll be an Easter egg and a game of trivia.
It's very Hercules at the end of Thor: Love and Thunder.
I'm worried about that too. Like, the things that are not being followed up on is stacking
Yeah.
higher than usual
Yeah.
in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah. Brett Goldstein is way too busy nowadays. He blew up, right?
He really
And
blew up.
they're rebooting stuff anyway. So maybe we'll see Hercules. Maybe we'll see White Tiger. Maybe we'll get a Shang-Chi part 2.
Sure. I hope we do. But the same guy who
I hope we
made
do.
Shang-Chi
Yeah.
is now doing Spider-Man 4. And it's like, oh, good idea. Because the choreography in Shang-Chi, that was
The
so
fight's going to be cool.
clean.
Yeah.
But that might, I mean, I'm sure there's other directors that could have done a Shang-Chi too. Is it
Right.
Shang-Chi? Shang-Chi?
Shang.
Shang? Okay.
Yeah.
Not anybody, but I don't know. If you put Christopher McQuarrie on a Shang-Chi too, he wouldn't do it. But like,
Right.
it would be cool. But after that, we also see a masked man that is not Daredevil, but also what's his name? The
Muse.
new Muse, the new possible villain of the season. There is a theory that we've already saw Muse
A weird
because
guy.
it was the guy who asked the therapist,
For the book.
Daredevil's girlfriend, to sign his book. That's probably a good guess because the camera lingered on him a little too long.
Yeah.
I wonder if he is a part of the Punisher plotline, or are
I
they
think he might
completely
be.
different things? Like, is it possible that also in this episode, Daredevil is like pushed up against the wall with that cop with the Punisher tattoo,
Hmm.
and he's like, "Oh, I had nothing to do with White Tiger's death," and according to Daredevil's heightened sense of the heartbeat,
He was
he's
telling the
telling the truth. He had nothing to do with it. I wonder if Muse is setting up the Punisher copycats, but but they did get those tattoos.
Yeah, there's a lot
How do
going
you think
on.
it's connected?
And after seeing Frank in this last episode, I don't think we're getting a resolution on the Punisher fan club in this season. I think that's going to be what his special presentation is about.
Really?
Yeah, and I think we're just pivoting now. Or maybe he'll start that. Maybe this will be him realizing, okay, shit, I do need to do something about these dudes that are kind of corrupting what I stand for here, which is that I stand for, you know, fuck corruption. Because the way we see him now, in the beginning of that conversation, the main takeaway was Frank got to Matt, right? Frank kind of had Matt see things from a certain different perspective about like the darkness within him. But I think Matt also got to Frank a little bit. And Frank is starting to realize, like, yeah, I can't just also be an insane person murdering who I think. I need to also make sure that I don't accidentally cause the worsening of what I'm trying to fight.
Interesting.
And I think we'll see that by the end
Right.
of the season, just not as much as we wanted to.
Maybe. We'll see. But
Yeah.
speaking of the system being corrupt, we already talked about Daniel and BB going to the club, but it's fine. It's fine. We'll get there.
What is
But
it? Yes. Go back to the
across the,
club.
yeah, exactly, the Megapolis thing.
Yeah.
Across the street from that, we see our case of the episode. I believe his name is Leroy.
Leroy.
He's getting arrested for eating or stealing some popcorn from a convenience store, and the officers are just blatantly eating it in front of the stolen merchandise. I was like, dang, okay, I know they're corrupt. That's just rude.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about Leroy really quickly because as a black man, I feel weird about it because it was one or two steps away from being a caricature or a stereotype. It was like half a step away from being like, you ever see like Days of Our Lives day players, you know what I mean, where it's like, man, why you gotta do me like that, homie? Come on, man, like cut me some slack.
Yeah. I think that the performance was a little bit rough there. That like the way that the lines were written versus the way that they were spoken. What's interesting is that it was actually something very woke that they were addressing with all of that, and I'm not sure that the typical anti-woke people will pick up on it. But it's essentially like a critique on like welfare queens and people that are just like, well, just stop committing crimes and pick yourself up by the bootstraps and work harder. I remember when I was young, it was very difficult for my mom to get off of government assistance, right? And it was and like, you know, she's not like this mastermind criminal or anything like that, right? But you know, she's not perfect. She had her issues, and to get out of that system and to not need the government welfare and to not need to turn to maybe questionable methods or you know, just thrive, right? Not just crime and all that aside. Just to go from surviving to thriving is such a huge hurdle for people that find themselves in those down and out parts of their lives. So I think they did a really good job at showing that through Leroy. Like, yeah, bro, I just wanted a fucking dessert, bro. Like, I'm tired of eating literal garbage because the last time I tried to go straight, I fucked up. You know, my rap sheet is 30 pages long because it's a huge hole that I need to climb out of. And this isn't The Dark Knight Rises where it's a realistic thing that I can climb out of this huge hole. So I think, long story short, I think they did a good job at like writing that, but the way it was acted and performed was very much like, okay, man, like
Day player.
yeah.
I don't know, like maybe I'm not gonna say he was a bad actor. Actually, I might say he was a bad. I wanna.
I think if anything, it wasn't even that. It was the set, because it had like the division, which is like symbolic. I get it. You've got Matt on the right side, and you know he's the lawyer, he's with the power, and then you've got the divider, and he's the one incarcerated. But I think that didn't help with like the back and forth between them, you know, and it made it a lot less kind of palatable to see the conversation happen. Whereas if maybe they were just like side by side or just a regular interrogation room without the division in the middle, right? And maybe a couple of tweaks of the lines themselves. Maybe that could have made a huge difference. I don't think it was just the performance that made it awkward, but it was a little bit weird. I'll give you that.
It was weird, especially. I mean, the case kept going on. It was like, I don't know. Matt got him just a weekend in jail. I get it. I get the point.
Yeah.
But like, man, it's hard. I'm not telling people to be smart about their crimes, but like, come on, dude. But after that, I want to talk about possibly. Okay, I need you to hear me really quickly. I need you to not judge me for just 2 seconds. Just 2 seconds.
Okay.
What?
Hit me with
What?
it.
What?
Hit me with
What?
it. I don't know. I don't know yet. Hit me with it. Go.
Can we talk about that random hot lawyer that Matt was talking to? I was like, who is this woman?
Yes. Yeah. I was watching this and I was like,
damn.
I was like, oh my God. Are they gonna? Is this like an X-rated episode?
I
like,
know, right?
Are they setting something up here?
They had such tension. I was like, did they fuck? Did they fuck?
Yeah.
I think they almost I was like, dang. I was like, okay, who is this woman? Why does she have such a striking face? I was like, God damn. Okay, I found her.
I am attracted to this lady. I am also attracted to Matthew Murdock in this scene. Like, just charisma his way into extra circumventing the sentencing guidelines.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell? Yeah. Okay, I found her. Her name is Elizabeth A. Davis. So if you're listening, a huge fan. If you wanna come on the pod and anyway, sorry. Yeah,
Happy Latvian Heritage Month.
Oh wait, no, I can't. No, it's Latveria.
No, Latvian.
Latveria, right?
No, man, Latveria is a fake place.
Wait, say it again.
Latvia is a real country. That is the Heritage Month that they were having in the episode.
Okay, pause. Latvia is a real place?
Yes, Latveria is where Dr. Doom is from, and that is fictional. That is like white boy Wakanda.
Let me look.
European Wakanda, I guess. The more you know, baby.
Wow. Okay.
So you thought it was you thought they were doing like a
Doctor Doom connection.
A Doctor Doom. Yeah.
You know what? My bad. My bad. That's on me. That's on me. I was like, oh no,
But you know what though?
To the Doctor Doom.
You know what though? At least it is similar. It's not like it's not like I was sitting here saying Wakanda, the country in Africa in real life. Like, that would be unforgivable. That's just straight ignorance. Latvia and Latveria, okay.
Wow, the more you know. You know. Anyways, this random finance lawyer works out a deal with Matt Murdock where he gets a weekend in jail. And that's when Leroy kind of have his moment later in the episode of you don't get it. I don't want any time. I just want probation because the state is spending 5 times that 2 boxes of popcorn to keep me locked up.
Instead of rehabilitating me. Yeah.
Leroy, you do have a point. It does cost way more money just to lock you up, and just it wasn't even that deep.
Yeah, literally petty larceny. Yes,
very petty larceny. But that also leads into I want to talk about what's going on with Kingpin and why I think he might be a good mayor, but for the wrong reasons, because he has a plan to build a recycling center. All right, down in New York, right? And my first thought was like, I like recycling. That's good. Okay, what's the catch? Is there going to be crime in the construction area? What's going on? It turns out it's a union busting tactic for the garbage men, right? And I was like, I don't know if the legalese works on that one, but all right. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. It's like the Kingpin thinks that he's doing the right thing, but goes about it the absolute wrong way. And this is when Daniel's drunken confession to BB about this whole plan blows up in his face because he told BB all about this plan earlier in the episode. And it comes to light with Kingpin having to sit through a children's performance of We Built This City.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Great scene. Very funny. Because Kingpin can't like
Twice, because it was with the kids,
Twice.
and then again with the in Latvian.
Okay, I know this is terrible. There's a part of me. Maybe it's because I'm a millennial and I'm traumatized by 9/11. I
You
just
should have got in the news.
no. Here's what happened. Like he's listening to these choir sing, and then someone comes in and be like, "Mr. Fisk, sir, someone has dusted the third Avengers Tower." Like
Thanos
what?
is back. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
The century is back. I just want that would be
And he's just
so funny.
Like the Bush, like how Bush was, that he was like,
Remain calm.
yeah. And he sat there for like what, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that.
Yes, it was unintentional. Only funny in hindsight, not funny now.
Yeah,
Truly
yeah.
not funny.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, and then he has to go to the Latvian cultural center to hear the same song in what language do they speak in Latvian?
In Latvian.
They speak Latvian in Latvia. I should have known.
Yep.
Yes, I thought all of that was super hilarious, but he does blow up at his entire staff, and Daniel surprisingly gets to keep his job. Honestly, I'm having trouble understanding why there would be any trouble here, or like why Daniel would get in trouble, because speaking as like a former journalist, the fact that this got leaked isn't like that big of a deal if he's going to announce it anyway. You know what I mean? Like, if anything, if I were Daniel, I was like, I was defending you, Your Honor. You know what I mean? Like, is the problem that Fisk is trying to bust up the union, or is the problem that it was just leaked at all? It was kind of muddled. But
Right.
Daniel keeps his job by like kissing the ring of Wilson Fisk. Oh, you're just so great, sir. I just want to help you in your mayorship, and like kind of activates the Kingpin music in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other assistant's like, what the fuck is going on here? And like, is Daniel about to get on his knees and start glazing Wilson Fisk? Like, I was like, hey, yo, what's going on? I'm so
It
glad.
was weird.
But that ends with, "This will never happen again, sir," which I guess seals his fate, that this is fucking happening again. Daniel's not making it out of this season. Oh my God. Or at least he might get pushed off a building. Well, remember you fondly, Daniel. Do you think Daniel's going to die?
I hope so, man. I don't like that guy. I
love
which
the
means
character. I love the character.
I think they're doing a good job at what the character's supposed to be, which is
Yes.
like this indoctrinated, radicalized incel, and so like he's got to die. He's not Victor from the Penguin. You know what I mean? Like, by no means. So I hope he does.
That's a great comparison. Victor
Yeah.
from the Penguin. Wow,
Yeah.
that's really good.
And he's I think what it was kind of weird seeing it happen, and then I started to realize, like, as Kingpin starts devolving back into Kingpin, which is like, I'm not sitting through this pomp and circumstance of kids singing songs to me, and then again at the Heritage Center while they sing the same song to me in a different language, and then this other meeting and the red tape and all this stuff. As he devolves back into like Kingpin, the criminal, I think he's also going to have like, he's going to take away certain aspects of the political side of him that further the Kingpin persona. And part of that is going to be his like MAGA army, right? And that's why he doesn't fire Daniel or kill Daniel just yet, because he's realizing there is a way to weaponize these people that are wearing blue hats saying Fisk can fix it, and, you know, singing my praises even when I'm literally yelling at them. And they feel like they have failed me when they should probably just take the L and walk out and just, you lost your job, bro. Like, get out of here. Don't, like, what are you doing? Um, and then, of course, always with that iron fist of like, don't let it happen again. Because if it does, you're out of here for sure. So I think he's starting to realize that there is a place that he can operate from where he's still Kingpin and he's still gonna bully people and push his way to get what he wants. But he's got to do it a little bit more politically, a little bit more strategy focused, which is what he's hating so far with the bullshit optics of it all. So it's starting to fuse the two characters into one.
I get it. I mean, I think we'll see. I'll reserve my judgments for that specifically later. I'm guessing it's going to come to a head next week. But let's talk about the final scene of episode 4. Daredevil, on his walk, he goes back to the place where Hector unfortunately passed away, and he's doing his little investigation using all of his super hearing and super smells, and that leads him to find the bullet casing where Frankton was shot, and it has a little Punisher logo on it specifically, and he also knows where Frank is.
Yeah.
Which surprised me. It surprised me because, number one, he always knew where Punisher was.
Yeah.
Was he just letting Punisher do his thing? Because as far as this scene is concerned, he does not stop punishing people.
Right.
But also, he is letting Frank do what he does, condoning his actions. If you're Matt Murdock.
Hold on. I have to go onto the door real quick. Mark.
Okay, Mark. Go. Hey, Stefania, if you're listening. Are you listening to me? This is Still Scrolling. We could read, I don't know. Still Scrolling, sponsored by Casper Mattresses. Do you want to watch and scroll in bed? Well, we have the perfect bed to scroll in, and that's Casper Mattresses. Use our code Scrollies to get 15% off all of your purchases.
All right.
Beep, bop, boop, boop, boop. All right. What was I saying?
Is it condoning his actions? I'll just answer as if you just asked it.
And Mark.
So I don't think it's a full condoning. It's not giving him his vote of approval on it. But I think it speaks to the fact that Matt Murdock knows we kind of need the Punisher sometimes.
Ooh, you think the Punisher? You think we need the Punisher?
Yes. Not unchecked. Not unchecked. I'm not that guy, okay? Don't worry. I'm not I don't have a bunch of Punisher stickers on my truck or anything. But I do think that in the universe, right?
Right.
Not in real life. We need the Punisher because of cases like Hector, And it just so happens that the irony there is that there's some sort of Punisher fanboy situation going on there with the people using co-opting his logo. What's going on? Oh, geez. Sorry.
You're set. What's up?
With people co-opting his logo.
Okay. Here's the thing.
Did it cut out?
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay. Go.
here's the thing. I have gone on record. Here, superheroes should not kill people,
Right.
which means that doesn't mean Punisher should not exist as a character. It means, in my opinion, Punisher will never be a superhero, right?
Right.
Vigilante, sure, he will never be a hero to me. The thing is, I think there are a few exceptions where murder is on the table if you're a superhero. They are rare, but very few exceptions. Okay. Number one, any invasion type scenario. Aliens are invading New York. You're going to have to kill those aliens. You're going to, no, don't do that, right? Number two, any wartime scenario
Okay.
where you're like, if Captain America in World War II, he's not a superhero in that time. He's a soldier. He's fighting a war.
Yeah,
Nazis are bad. I'm not going to feel bad for Nazis. You know what I mean? And I think that's it for me. You know, I don't think there needs to be a scenario or written out to be a scenario where a superhero needs to murder someone. You know what I mean? And I that being said, I like the Punisher as a foil for Daredevil.
Right.
And I'm not sure how in this world they haven't caught the Punisher. And why is he not on Thunderbolts? You know, I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, I don't know, throw Frank on the Thunderbolts. Throw Bullseye on the Thunderbolts. If everyone's just power is just gun, they're doing nothing. I'm just saying, right?
Yeah.
But I love how Frank was able to reach Matt in a way that no other character can. And it's reaching back to what we liked about Netflix.
Yeah.
Which is like, it goes back to my earlier point, if you're going to kill Foggy and Karen, at least give me a new dynamic. And then Frank does give that new dynamic, you know? What did you think about Frank in this scene?
I think they hit the nail right on the head with him, at least so far. It's only been a few minutes, but it's honestly the greatest few minutes the MCU has had in the past
Really?
5 years, I think. Yeah, it was just so well done. Obviously, I'm exaggerating, right? But it was such a well done scene, a well done moment for Frank where you kind of get a peek behind the curtain, right? He talks about like Matt kind of taunts him, calls him a victim. And Frank gets upset by that, and he's like, "I've never used that pussy ass word in my life," and blah blah blah. Which I think is what
cursing for the MCU.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
But I think that's what a lot of people see when it comes to Frank is like, yeah, you know, I'm not triggered, I'm not woke and politically correct, and blah 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 blah. But that's just really the surface of it, right? Like that's just him being like an accountable, self-reflective man. The rest of it is anti-establishment, anti-corruption, anti all the fucking bullshit. And I think that scene showed a lot of that through just the few minutes where he talks about his motivations and how he's also insane because of the loss he's experienced and the trauma. I think if that was any indication of what we're going to see in the special presentation that we're getting for him, or maybe even in the next few episodes, they found a way to basically continue the Netflix Punisher, which is great.
Right. I mean, Punisher is the one Netflix show that I couldn't finish.
Oh.
I even saw Iron Fist season 1 and 2,
Oof.
but I couldn't get through Punisher. I don't know. I maybe it's because I don't think he's a hero. I think he's a great character though.
Right.
You know, but I don't think it's a hero. I just couldn't bring myself to finish it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of straightforwardness to the morality of the Punisher. You know, especially like in America, you know, you're innocent till proven guilty, and you know, we don't necessarily have a federal death penalty here, especially not until you hit trial. So I think it does get old very quick if you try to make it like its own show and give it a whole season and it's like a whole, you know, trilogy or whatever that they tried to do back when they had the movies. So it's tough to like make it compelling and get people to commit, I'm sure people will, but like I agree with you, right? Like to sit and watch it weekly or binge it or whatever, it is very different than to just have him be like a really good character in part of a larger story about justice and morality and all that stuff.
Right. And the episode ends with Matt and therapist lady getting it on.
Mm-hmm.
And more
Mm-hmm.
importantly, Fisk going back and cheating on his diet while Adam, the other man, is locked up in a dungeon. Terrifying. Can't wait to see next week. Derek, what are your predictions for next week on Daredevil episode 5?
You know, I don't know. And I think that's part of the allure of the show is that I see the formula, I see the roadmap, I see what they're doing. But it almost feels like I can go another 2 episodes and Matt still not be in the suit and Kingpin still not be Kingpin, and I'd be fine with it. It's really weird.
I'm having a good time with it.
Yeah, yeah, it's really weird, and I think IGN absolutely hates it. I don't know if you've seen their reviews.
Really? What are they saying?
Every review is like, "This is such a bad show.
No,
There is no
I'm
action."
enjoying it.
Yeah, I think it's great, but it's 6 episodes, right? So
I thought it was 9. Hold on,
is
let me
it
double
9?
check. Let me double check. We're going. Because I heard they split the season into
Oh,
two
you're
halves.
right.
Season 1 and
It's
2.
9. It's
Yeah.
9. Okay, so then yeah, I think going into next week, I think we're just gonna see kind of a part 2 to this episode. So this one was kind of setting up like, hey, Matt is starting to realize he needs to be Daredevil, and maybe he's not gonna be full blown Punisher about things, but Daredevil needs to come back. And then I think this did a really good job at Kingpin realizing I will literally go insane if I try to play this full clean cut above board mayor. So I need to dive back into who I really am, which is Kingpin. Let me go have some sausage and pasta while I sit next to the man I have captive in my basement. So I think this next episode we're going to see the continuation of that and maybe finally get to see a suit up from Matt. We'll see.
I don't think he puts on the suit until like episode 7. I think
Okay.
they're really, really pushing it.
They're stretching it then.
I think, because the previous iteration of the show was legal procedural, and it's like that's what I want. I want capes and courts. That's Daredevil, and right now I'm being fed. I wish She-Hulk gave me capes and court. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like to that degree. I don't want to relitigate the reaction to She-Hulk. That's a whole other podcast.
No, it was more sitcom than it
Yeah.
was court procedural, and I think it would have benefited better from court procedural.
Yeah,
For
something like that. Like they could have. Well, you know what? I'm not talking about She-Hulk. Talking about this episode's already long enough. We will see you next time. We might review in a batch again, but we shall see. But until then, follow us everywhere on the socials: TikTok, Instagram, to blah 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 blah. You know where it is. Ask us questions. We'll answer your comments, etc., etc. And we shall see you next time.